That's right. If you thought it was a way to escape the lint, it ain't none.
Hey queen. Hey queen. Hey queen.
Hey queen, welcome back to my channel, girl. Today we are getting into the locks. I've been getting so much love and comments on my locks whenever I post, and I was like, it's time to do a sit down video and talk about them. I get asked all the time, how did you start your locks? I want to start mine. Do you have any advice? So in this video, I'm going to be giving y'all all the gems. It is so easy in 2025 to get all of this internet advice about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and all of that. And technically, this video is internet advice, but I'm here to debunk a lot of that stuff. Because as someone that started my loc journey and was going on all of the loc pages looking for hella advice, I can tell you most of that stuff is cap. You don't need hella products. You don't need an expensive ass loctician. You don't even need to get a retwist every month. It's time to debunk the loc lies once and for all. So come on in, grab a little snack, maybe a cup of tea, and we are gonna get into some things. If you're new to my channel, smash that subscribe button. You know you wanna be fam. Also, comment below if you are starting your locks, thinking about starting your locks, if you are already locked. I need all the dreadheads to assemble. I literally have a long note document with all the notes of stuff that I want to make sure that I remember for this video. And I'm just going to dive right in no particular order. And for those that don't know, my name is Star Nubia, and I am 3 going on 4 years locked. July of 2021 would be my lock anniversary. So your girl's been locked up for about 3 years now, and I've learned so much on my journey. I absolutely adore my locks. I love my hair, and this is actually not my first loc journey. So when I was little, probably from the age of 2 to about 6 or 7, I had locks. It wasn't until around like 2nd grade that I ended up cutting my locks. My mom didn't really know how to take care of them because my grandmother had started them, and when I moved from my grandmother to my mom's house, she didn't really know how to maintain it. I did go to the salon here and there, but it was overall just too much for her to handle. My locks were starting to look crazy. So she asked me if I wanted to cut them, and I made the decision to do so because I was the only girl in school with locks, y'all. Back in those days, having locks was very rare. I wanted to have all the cute pigtails and barrettes and perms and all the stuff that my friends had. So I made the decision to cut my locks. It wasn't until after the pandemic when I started growing my hair back from a really low short cut after doing the big chop that I was like, I think it's time to spin the block and get locks again. I knew that I wanted to grow my hair back out, but I did not want to go back to wigs, weaves, having to constantly braid and detangle my hair. And I have like 4B, 4C hair, so you could imagine what those wash days were like. And protective styles have always been my friend. So I was like, you know what? Being that I'm growing my hair back, let me get a permanent protective style that would be so much easier to maintain. And yeah, 3 years later, here I am. So let's start with the most controversial topic when it comes to starter locks, which is coils or 2-strand twists. Well, I've tried both. And the answer to which one is best honestly just depends on your hair texture. I started out with coils. My cousin actually started my locks for me, and she started them with coils. Baby, when I tell you those coils lasted every bit of like 4 days until they literally started unraveling in the back of my head. So the coils for me were not sustainable. Child, after those 4 days, I went over all of those coils and did 2-strand twists because I knew that my hair would lock better with a 2-strand twist. It's kind of like a braid in a sense. Like it helps to kind of force the hair to stay in place. And that worked for me in my hair texture. Now, if you have 3C, 3A, all of those other grades, child, I would recommend you look up Loc Journey specifically for your hair texture. One con for coils, they can unravel quickly. And one con with 2-strand twist is that when they do lock, sometimes your locks can start to split at the end. I'll try to find a picture to insert, but this happened to me, and it actually happened like 2 years into my loc journey, after my locks were already fully formed, the locks that were thicker that started out as 2-strand twist ended up splitting at the end. So for example, if this is a 2-strand loc, and let's say it was like fully formed, somehow, some way, it just started splitting at the end. And I had to decide if I wanted to pay somebody to combine them back, or if I was gonna just let them naturally separate. And so some of my locks have naturally separated into being individual strands, even though I 2-strand twisted them. The next thing we're gonna get into is products. Do you have a list of products that you're gonna buy for your starter locks? Yeah, crumble that list up and throw it in the nearest garbage can. Child, you don't need all them damn products. There are 3 products that you need in this loc journey. Number 1, buy one of those little cheap dollar water mist bottles that you can spray in your hair for moisture. Number 2, you need a really good twisting gel that is not gonna give you hella buildup. My personal favorite that I've been using for years is the Pure Neat Braid Conditioning Shining Gel. And the last thing you need is a good oil. When it comes to locks, my favorite motto is less is more. The less you do to it, the more they flourish. The next thing we gotta get into is the Loc Extensions. Now y'all know we live in a day and age of instant gratification. Everybody wants it here, now. They don't want to wait, they're impatient. The loc journey is no different. I personally don't recommend them, and I'll tell you why. Number 1, I've had a lot of people that I know that got loc extensions and they damaged their real loc. Number 2, you have to be very careful who you allow to install these loc extensions. A lot of these locticians be out to just get a bag, y'all, like for real. I'm talking $1,400 for some loc extensions. Rent money. I even had a homegirl who got the loc extensions, and after 6 months to a year, they started coming out. So she paid all that money just for them to look crazy down the line and her to have to get them removed and then put back in. In my opinion, I'd rather avoid the headache and just be patient and let my locks grow out. But like I said, to each his own. Alright, now I'm gonna get off my soapbox and we're gonna move on to the next thing. The LINT. Why didn't anybody tell me about the LINT? Yes, I had a loc journey when I was a kid, but obviously somebody was taking care of my locks for me, so I was not aware of all these things. Now that I am an adult and decided to do my journey over again, baby, this LINT has been driving me insane. I have a silk bonnet, a silk scarf, I even have silk pillowcases, and LINT still manages to get in your locks. That's right. If you thought it was a way to escape the LINT, it ain't none. Now you can try to minimize it to the best of your ability, but there's still gonna be times where LINT gets into your loc. It's natural. Your locks are naturally made to basically lock in all of the microfibers of your hair. So for example, let's say you wearing a sweater. Now this sweater is not fuzzy, right? But you know when it's wintertime, you want to have layers and a cute little sweater on. Those fiber from those sweaters can get in your hair. Scarves, when it's wintertime, if you want to have a scarf on, the fibers from that can get in your hair. I even use these on my face sometimes, and even the fibers from these little cotton swabs I've found picking out of my locks. It's so easy for these things to get in your hair. I swear, even when you're super careful, it's like I always end up picking something out of my hair at the end of the day. Some steps you can go to eliminate it as much as possible, or at least minimize it, would be getting a nice soft brush and brushing your locks, and they hopefully will remove some of that debris that your locks kind of attract during the day. But honestly, y'all, it's still hard and there's no escaping the LINT. Now I know I mentioned brushing locks to eliminate LINT and frizz, but if you have starter locks, you might want to hold off the brush for a bit. When I was about 2 years into my loc journey, I came across loc pages that were like, use a brush on your locks, and it's like this whole controversial thing. I do use a soft brush on my locks, but I realized that I did it too soon. And I say that because even though down here was locked, you know, your roots are always gonna need a retwist, right? So your roots for the most part are always loose. And I was 2 years into my loc journey. I was just a brushing, okay? Y'all, when I tell you that was not a good decision because my roots would not lock. So literally, let's say this is the lock. I would have like a super solid lock down here, and then all of this would be loose. I was looking crazy. And the lady that I was going to at the time was telling me, she was like, your locks are not locking at the root. That's not good. And I was trying to figure out what it is. Literally, y'all, I would get a retwist, and then 2 weeks later, it would look like I didn't even have a retwist no more because the whole lock was loose. So I found brushing your starter locks in the beginning stages, even 2 years in, honestly reversed a lot of the progress in my locks than it did help and aid. I had to wait damn near a year and a half for my locks to fully lock at the root. Now my locks are fully locked. Like, it's a little space here, but for the most part, all of this is solid. So now I can brush it and not have any problems. But in the beginning, when I was still trying to lock my roots, I mean, y'all, I had like this much of loose hair at the top of my lock, and it was not good. It didn't look good, and it was super frustrating. So if you have starter locks, I would hold off on any brushing until your locks are fully formed at the roots. Now, the next big controversial thing when it comes to locks is how often should you retwist? Now, most locticians will tell you to come every 4 weeks. I've even heard some people say that they like to get retwist every 2 weeks. And quite frankly, that's crazy as hell. Do not overly retwist your locks, because what's gonna end up happening is thinning. You do not want that, especially if you are getting high tension lock styles every time you get a retwist. Like, every time you get a retwist, you gotta have 2 strand twists. Every time you get a retwist, you want it to be styled in a cute way. All of that tension is not good for your locks, and you will thin them out. And once your locks start thinning, it's hard to save them, y'all. Now, don't get me wrong, there was a point in my lock stage where I wanted all the cute styles, especially once it got long enough to style. I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. But because of all of the different lock styles I was doing, my locks, which were actually thicker than this, actually became a lot more uniformed and smaller. My hair isn't thin, I will say that, but my locks were a lot thicker at the beginning of my journey than they are now. They're a lot more uniformed and small, which some people go for that look. I personally wanted my locks to be like more thicker, and they just changed over time through all the styling and stuff that I was doing. And I've just learned to accept them on this journey, but that is something to consider. If you want your locks to stay thick and healthy, you might want to pull back on some of those retwists and styles, especially when it comes to styling. Like, girl, learn to just get a retwist sometimes. You don't always have to style your locks with a retwist. I know that styling can help stretch out the time of your hair looking fresh, but those high tension styles are not good for your locks. And when it comes to retwisting, me personally, I will go every bit of 2 months before I get another retwist. And I don't always get a style. Sometimes I just get a retwist, sometimes I get a style. It honestly just depends. Most of the time, I'll save my styles from when I'm going out. Like, let's say I'm going on vacation, it's my birthday, I'm going out for something special. Then I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna get my locks styled around that time. But if it's just a regular old day in the neighborhood, give me a retwist any day. Now, last but not least, let's get into locticians. Do you need a loctician? Is it necessary? Etc. First of all, if you can learn how to retwist your own locks and you know how to maintain and do it yourself, I always recommend doing that, because no one is going to care for your locks the way you do. Now, I do know how to retwist my hair, but if you're lazy like me, you're gonna end up getting a loctician, because washing, styling, and drying your hair at home is literally an all-day job. Whereas going to a loctician or someone at the salon can take you literally up to like 2 hours, 3 hours max, depending on your length. So yes, I do go to a loctician, but I will say it was trial and error trying to find the person for me. The first lady I was going to, no bueno. When I looked at her profile, she did a lot of nice styles. Beautiful salon, like everything was cute. She had the nice spa chairs, but she didn't really care for locks the way I personally would have liked her to. Like, She cared more about the style and presentation versus the health of the hair. And that's really important because I noticed after going to her and getting those Loc Styles, one, my head would be killing me because it always would be super tight. Two, whenever I would finally take down my locks, my thick locks started to look like ramen noodles. And I am not exaggerating, y'all. Like, it would be thick at the end of the lock and super thin at the beginning of the lock. And I think it was because she was doing my roots extremely too tight. Like, I need a loctician that's gonna tell me, girl, I know you excited for some styles, but let your hair grow out a little bit more, because if I give you a style right now, your head is gonna kill you and it's not gonna benefit you in the long run. Instead of a loctician that's like, you want a style, mommy? I give you style, and just hook some shit up that they know is not actually good for your hair. Another red flag was this lady was not black. And that's a whole other controversial thing of like, well, do you have to be black to know how to do locks? And in my opinion, yes, because it's a African hairstyle. And she didn't have locks either. So she was a Spanish woman, Dominican woman, super sweet. Like, her whole family worked there. And it was actually a really popular lock salon in Brooklyn. And it was near my house. It was convenient. And she did really good styles. Like, some of my lock styles that I got from her looked beautiful. I will give her that. But like I said, I don't think that she cared about the health of the hair up to my standards. So I stopped going to her and I just started retwisting my own hair for a while until I could really trust somebody else to do my locks. I don't like everybody having their hands in my hair. But when I moved to Queens, I did some research and I found a loctician, and the person I'm going to now I do really like. Number one, anytime she does my styles, she's always like, is it tight? Let me know, I will change it. Do not go home with your head feeling too tight or being uncomfortable. The style is not worth it. And that to me is a green flag. They also have their own products that they make from scratch, like all their oils, shampoos, and stuff that they use. It's all made with natural ingredients. So I appreciate that a lot. So luckily, I was able to find a loctician that I love. Sometimes you gotta scout around a little bit, y'all. Some trial and error. That's what comes with this journey. But in the end, you will be able to find someone, hopefully, that will be able to work with you and won't be too expensive. You definitely got to be careful because some of these locticians are just out for money. So choose your loctician wisely. All right, y'all, that is it for this video. I hope you found this helpful. And before I go, today's secret emoji shout out goes to the Weave Connection 7765. Hey queen, thank you for supporting the channel. And today's secret emoji will be the fire emoji. So drop some fire in the comments if you would like to be possibly shout out in my next video. All right, queen, thanks so much for stopping by with your girl. Make sure you smash that like button and share with your homegirls. See you in my next one.
Hey queen. Hey queen.